Hello and welcome to the first show of many, hopefully, with me and Ryan, called A&R's Super Sunday Q&A. And we're here with no script, no idea what we're going to talk about. It's entirely down to you guys to send us the questions in the chat, on Twitter, for us to talk about. And it doesn't have to be Arsenal based, doesn't even have to be football based, can be based on anything whatsoever. So, without further ado, how are you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. So I'm just tweeting out that we're live. But yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. This has been a few months in the making, actually, in terms of actually planning and getting it organised and all that. So yeah, as you say, hopefully it's one of many to come. And that's it. And for anyone, obviously, it's going to be 1 week here, 1 week on my channel. We'll take turn hosting back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So it's all down to audience participation this show. So hopefully we can get a lot of good comments in the chat box this evening, and comments on Twitter for us to go through. And as the weeks go by, hopefully it will get more and more common and popular to do so. We've had a few questions sent in to us on WhatsApp, on some of our groups, from Melvin Marks, which we can start with.
Yeah.
First one: are there more rumours on who we are buying than any other club in the world? So it is an Arsenal one to start off with. Do you think that it is just because, obviously, that's what we concentrate on, the Arsenal rumours? We don't really go all around the houses with the other clubs and bother too much about what the media are saying about their purchases and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think it might be a bit of that. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's like you say, it is more of a in-house thing in terms of we as Arsenal fans are more than ever as well. For the last few years have been more focused on our own club than anyone else because we know what needs to be done. The sort of mindset is worry about us, doing our business and doing our stuff on the pitch, and everything will follow. We shouldn't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I mean, but based on with that, it does seem like we're linked with everyone and their dog every 5 minutes. But it just does my head in. But yeah, what can I say now? Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. There's probably a lot more players linked actually to the likes of Newcastle, especially their first some of the new owners and all that. So it's going to be interesting. Either way, whatever happens, it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
I think got to think of like, so even though Burnley have just gone down, they've lost 14 of their players to free agency. Basically, they've got the contracts up and all that. So as the question rightly says, we're not going to be the only club that's linked with players, and there's a worse of clubs that will need more players than us.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is just my own personal point of view, and just say hello quickly to some people that have joined us in the chat. Russ, Melvin, Ray, thanks ever so much for joining us. Please, this show is nothing without your comments and suggestions. We've got nothing to talk about unless you ask us to talk about stuff in the chat. So get your questions in there. It doesn't have to be football related, Arsenal related. It can be about anything. So yeah, please get your questions in. Keep us going throughout the show. For the next 60 minutes, we won't have anything to talk about unless you give us something to talk about. So yeah, get your questions in the chat. And Steve has just joined us as well. So thanks very much for that. Yeah, regarding that, just to finish on that one, first question, I personally don't even bother reading about other clubs' transfer rumours and everything. It's purely the Arsenal rumours that I just look for every day. I mean, occasionally I scroll through like the BBC gossip column and all that and have a read through that every now and then. And that obviously covers other clubs, but I only really take in what Arsenal are doing and going for and so on. So it may be a bit of that really regarding that. I'm sure other clubs think they're the same. You know, especially Newcastle at the moment, like you think you mentioned, they're going to be linked with every single player under the sun from now on. Man United always are. So yeah, I think it might just be a bit of that really. Got a question, and first one. In fact, you're in the first inaugural show, Ray. You have put the first question in the chat for us to ask. So well done, you. I'll send you nothing in the post, but it's very great for you doing so. Ray said, first choice for Sunday dinner from both of you. I'll let you go first on that one.
What are you talking like meat wise or in general?
Could be anything. Anything, mate.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to keep it PG, so to say, because obviously it could be interpreted in other ways. But yeah, in terms of Sunday roast, as a Sunday roast.
He actually said first choice for Sunday dinner from both of you. So it doesn't even have to be a roast, mate. From the way it's put.
No, but again, it depends on time of year as well. But roast chicken or roast lamb, something like that, with all of those potatoes and all that. Popping today, it was too hot for a roast today, so I was like, nope. Had Italian today, so yeah. What about yourself, though?
Yeah, you see, I'm a bit weird because I mean, I love all meats really. I've gone off steak a little bit recently, although I do like it. But I really hate gristle, so I have to be really careful with like the meats that I have sometimes because if I'm chewing on some fat, it just really puts me off. So I love really tender lamb. That would be my first choice if it could be, as I say, fat and gristle free. And yeah, like a lamb shank is probably my first choice. So I think I'll go for a lamb shank with all the trimmings, roast potatoes, and all that sort of stuff, and cauliflower cheese, things like that. Love that. I love going to a carvery and just piling a plate full of stuff. I love those. So that's my first choice. Another question from Russ. What's the last series you finished watching? It's your turn.
You answer that one first.
Okay. Misfits. I absolutely loved it, and I can't believe they never brought it back. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I think it's brilliant. It's on Channel 4. I think it's on. You can get it on Netflix as now as well. I think there's about, I can't remember how many series there was now. 4 or 5 series, I think.
I think it was 4 years or 5 years they did, and then they called it a day after that.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites I've ever seen. I just think it's hilarious. That's some of the lead characters. I think they're brilliant. I love my favourite one is what should I say? Breaking Bad is my favourite of all time. Breaking Bad, absolutely love Breaking Bad. But yeah, the last one I watched, as I say, Misfits. What about you?
I'm trying to think now. Bloody hell, there's been a few recently. I'm trying to think. What was it? Hawkeye on Disney Plus. It's basically not the MCU, but the TV series, six episodes.
Yeah.
From the character's perspective of the aftermath of what happens in Endgame. It ain't what's Endgame. How many years later, spoilers of that. It didn't end well for him. But no, yeah, it's on at the moment. I'm watching Obi-Wan at the moment with our very own McGregor as Ben Kenobi. And that's,
I haven't seen that yet.
So far, so good. I've got 2 episodes left, so far, so good though.
Have you seen? I've been watching. I'm up to date with that Moon Knight. That's really good.
I watched that. That's what I watched recently. I've watched that literally week by week as well.
Yeah, that's been good. Yeah, I've been enjoying that.
Imagine what you can do, Disney, if you give Oscar Isaac an actual script, unlike you did at Star Wars. Made a big deal of bringing him in and then fucked him over.
Yeah, exactly. And Steve's put steak, baked potato, corn on the cob, apple pie and ice cream for dessert. That's tonight's dinner. That sounds lovely, mate. Sounds absolutely lovely. Let's have a look. Turner in, Leno out. Are we upgrading in goalkeeper position? Now, I
don't know.
I don't know about you. I listened to there's on the Chronicles of a Gooner with Harry Symeou. He had this American lady on who was 90 min reporter out in America, obviously, and she gave it's only about a 20-minute show, something like that, and she gave an account of the guy out of Emmerdale, Matt Turner, and I'm going to keep bringing that one out. And she was really not scathing, but couldn't understand it at all. She said he can't play with his feet very well, which is one of the main reasons why we swapped from Leno to Ramsdale in the first place.
Yeah.
So if he's coming in, if it's true and he's not brilliant with his feet, then I cannot see with point, really. I mean, I know that Leno's got to go and we've got to replace him with someone, but to replace him with someone who potentially is not that good.
Turner, he's what,
23, something? He's only young.
Yeah. So he's got that's one point. One way you can look at it is that he's young. He's still got time to sort of learn that on a training pitch. He's got plenty of time to work on the training pitch. He'll be used to the Europa League and the group stages and all until the latter stages if we get that far next season, and in the cups, etc. But week to week wise, he's going to be literally on the training pitch most of the time. So yeah, hopefully he'll be able to pick that up along the way. Touch wood. Let's be honest, it can't be any worse than Manas and you also got another thing to look at is, as I say, in terms of Turner's age, Leno's 30 now. So you are in one sense you are upgrading because there's even if it doesn't work out, you can sell him on. And he's still got the prime years ahead of him.
Exactly, yeah. He sounds like Leno in a way that he's a brilliant shot stopper. He's very agile in the box and, comes and claims crosses and, everything else he does really, really well, like Leno. But by her account, anyway, she said he's not brilliant playing out with his, feet. But I have learnt to reserve judgment until I've seen the guy myself playing, because I can't say I've ever seen him play. I haven't even watched any clips of him or anything on YouTube, to be honest.
Look at Tomiyasu this time last year. None of us had heard of him.
Exactly.
Let alone watched him.
And everyone was scathing.
Yeah. He's turned out to be one of our shining stars of the season when he's been able to play.
Exactly, yeah. Melvin's put, my wife is such a slow cook. When she bakes lamb, it tastes like sheep.
She's bacon concerned.
But yeah, it's saying, and obviously you know how many people were scathing about Ramsdale when we signed him, for example. And, so let's just give the guy a chance. Let's not slate him before he has even put the shirt on or even appeared on the website with a shirt in his hands. So let's give him a chance. Melvin's given us another question on the WhatsApp group. If the current manager fails, does Man United get lost in the ether for many years? I'll quickly start on that one. I think that he's a brilliant coach. Had a brilliant Ajax team, which I loved. I think most people loved. I think they were, for a little while there, they were everyone's second favourite team, weren't they, when they got to the semis of the Champions League and everything. And I think the way that he built that success at Ajax was based on how great they are with their academy and bringing young players through and training them, obviously, within their academy superbly. He's not going to get that at Man United. It's like chalk and cheese, those two clubs at the moment. The way that Man United just go out and buy the best players to think that that's going to improve them, to the way that they nurtured them at Ajax. And he may well be brilliant there at Man United, because to say he's a great coach, but me personally, I think he's setting himself up to fail. I think it's the wrong manager, wrong club, basically. And he won't get the time. I mean, people will say, when we started our rebuild, people were moaning about us taking too long for our rebuild, which is still not quite there, but nearly there now. He won't get those 2-3 years that it's going to take. I don't think. I mean, you have to. The media leads what people think a lot of the time, and the media sort of feeds the fans certain information which makes them start to change their minds about things and get upset about things. And if Man United are losing game after game or not doing brilliantly, the media are going to get on his back immediately. The fans are going to get fired up, and the fans are going to start calling for his head after 6 months, like they did with Moyes and countless others since Ferguson left. So I don't think he's going to get the time to do what he needs to do personally. I don't think that they are going to do very well. And if that's the case, then that's going to set them back however long he's there. If he's there for a season, 2 seasons, and it still doesn't work, then that's going to set them back another couple of years. And then a new manager will come in. The players that he's left with won't like them. He won't be able to work with them, and he wants to change and get his own new players in. I think it could be a long time before Man United get their act together. I mean, what about you?
Well, I'm pretty much the same ethos in terms of wrong manager, wrong time. We've been saying all season, even as Arsenal fans, but from a neutral perspective in terms of what we've seen of Man United this season, we've all stepped back and actually looked at it from a football fan's point of view. We've seen so many similarities at Man United of what we were seeing before Mikel walked through the door, as at the end of Wenger's and Unai Emery's time. More so near the end of Emery's time, basically. More so, we're seeing so many similarities. Big players demanding big money fees, trying to run the club, causing our growth on and off the pitch, be it in the newspapers or whatever. Just underperforming, not bothering to turn up, not showing they give a damn about the actual what they're doing on the pitch or the fans. The match going, especially match going fans that go week in week out there. We've seen a lot of that this season with Man United. And when you compare Arsenal where we are now to where they are basically where we were 2.5 years ago, if not worse, as a club. Because no matter what anyone says, since Ferguson, when you see Ferguson since Ferguson's left side, you've seen the downfall of Man United, basically the massive drop off they've had in terms of they went from winning the league title his last season to they're battling for top 4 now. I can't remember the last time they actually were in a genuine title race. That's how bad things have got with Man United. It shows how good of a job Ferguson was keeping things afloat under that ownership. The second he walks out the door, as you say, David Moyes lasted 8.5 months, if that. Then it was Louis van Gaal, and he was hounded out from day one, from not just from the media, from the fan base. He won an FA Cup his last ever game, and all anyone wanted to talk about is if he was being sacked or not. Basically, weren't there to congratulate him on nothing. That's from the media and the fans' perspective side of things. Then who was after him? Was it Mourinho after him? Wasn't it? Again, massive sort of, it's Mourinho, he's one thing, but he isn't really what we want because he's not the sort of manager we go for years gone by, Didn't really embrace it the way maybe they should have done, because again, modern day, I think you need to change the times maybe, and they just didn't embrace it, not again with the fan base and the ownership. It was just, in terms of the ownership, it just seems they just pick a name out of a hat, throw it against the wall and hope it sticks. That's all they're doing. That's literally all they're doing. And in the meantime, these managers they bring in, they're back and for one summer window, and then from there on in, you're on your own basically. I'm not going to give you everything you want basically. I'm not going to really back you the way I did the year before. And when we've seen it all falls apart. Absolutely. And we saw it under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. He was there longer than people expected, but even to a point where again, first summer window gets back, and then after that it was jibs and jabs. We're going to give you what you want, basically, and you just got to work with what you've got now. You spent X amount of money. You've got to do the business now. And that with Ten Hag now, as you say, he's a fantastic coach, and what he did at Ajax, and you can't not rate, and obviously take your hat off to. But as you say, chalk and cheese, Ajax, everything is set up perfectly for where Ajax were, where they are basically, for him to do the job he did when he came in. United's a mess. It's a complete mess.
Yeah.
And as you say, they've lost Paul Pogba for free as well. There's talks of De Jong maybe coming in and Van der Beek getting a chance now. But there's so much to sort of sort out now at that club. If everyone's doing this, they're back now, Ten Hag's and he's going to just click his fingers. It's not going to be like that again. And why are people holding United? And it's not just the fans; it's the media as well, holding United to this standard, what they once were. Because they're not that like us. We're not what we once were. They are not what they once were. And sadly, with Ten Hag, if he'd come in this situation, if he came in, for example, to an Arsenal after Arteta, that makes sense because everything has been put in place from the academy all the way through to the senior squad, and throughout the whole club, for him to do what he done at Ajax. There's not that ethos at Man United. As you say, they just want to buy the best players and spend the most money. It hasn't worked out in what 10 years.
Mm. Yeah.
So sadly, I do honestly think, sadly for Ten Hag, he'll be lucky. He'll probably be gone by end of this time next year. After the season ends next season, he'll probably this ain't what I signed up for. Basically, he'll probably walk out himself.
Oh, well, I don't know, but I mean, I don't know about that. I don't think many managers do that nowadays, do they? Because of the money they will get paid off. But
the reason I say that
it does depend.
It depends on how the season goes for him. But if he doesn't feel like he's getting the backing he was promised in the first place, it's his reputation that he's built up at Ajax is on the line here.
I know.
His career basically on the line.
That's why I think it's a bad move, to be honest. Exactly. But there was another question that I'll put a star next to. Russ said, as Poch has left PSG, would you have him at Arsenal? For me, I wouldn't have anyone associated with Spurs at Arsenal. Exactly. Yeah, that was a completely different kettle of fish when we stole their best player and he came over to us and won the double straight away. But he's just tainted as far as I'm concerned. You know, and is he as good as people have said that he is as well? I mean, he hasn't done brilliantly at PSG with all that money and players at his disposal as well.
Well, you literally look at the front three he's had this season just gone. Messi, I know Messi's near the end of his career, but Lionel Messi in a lesser league to what the Liga is, let's be honest. Neymar and then Mbappe.
Not to mention everyone else.
Goals that they did in the previous 2 seasons combined.
I know. And he didn't win. There was a season he didn't win the league.
Last season, Lille won it.
Which is
12 points.
Pretty much unbelievable, you know, when you consider the squad that they've got, at PSG. For them not to win the league is utterly embarrassing. I mean, Unai Emery managed that feat. I didn't think anyone else would manage it, but he has. It's almost impossible not to win the league with that squad. And obviously failed again in Europe.
Yeah, they played poor as well. They played poor.
I know. And I mean, that result they had against Real Madrid when they were 2-0 up, and they blew it in the last 45 minutes of the 2-legged tie. I don't know. I'm not saying he's a crap manager, but I think he might be a little bit overrated, to be honest.
I think he now with what we're hearing of him mutually leaving PSG, I think he needs to go somewhere now and restart himself again. Be it in England or go to Spain or wherever, or even Italy. Do what Mourinho did a few years ago. Just take a step back, choose the right team for you and the way you want to play, that you're going to have control of in terms of not just the players' outgoings, but in terms of who you want to bring in. And just take 2 years, 3 years at that club, rebuild not just your career, but put the brand, put a stamp on things and show people what you really made of. Look at Unai Emery. After what happened in terms of how he left us in the end, how things ended with us. 8 months later, he ended up at Villarreal. His first full season was that he wins their first European competition ever in their history, and then a year later gets into a semi-final of the Champions League.
I know, done a brilliant job, but I mean, I just don't know. I don't think he's quite what everyone thinks he is. I mean, Rich there has said every manager has a past. Poch would be great for us. It's just me. I only can say what I feel. I wouldn't want an ex-Spurs manager at Arsenal. I'm sorry. They took one of our previous managers in George Graham. They weren't happy about it, were they?
Didn't work out for them either.
Well, he won them a trophy, to be fair to him, but which is more than a lot of other managers have done. But
watched it actually, to be honest.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want him at Arsenal. I just don't know. It's just my own personal opinion. Another good question actually here from Ray, saying, which foreign football match or team would you love to travel and watch? That's a really good question. There's one that's not very exotic for me, but I mean, there's plenty more if I think about it. I mean, I would love to. Actually, there's two I'm going to mention. One, as I say, not very exotic, but I'd love to go to an Old Firm derby, Celtic Rangers. That would be an unreal atmosphere. I'd love to experience that. And the other one would be Boca Juniors and River Plate, because South American football is just, again, the atmosphere is
different.
Absolutely something else. Yeah, there's a real edge to it, and then that's got a massive sort of grudge feel to the match. But also, I'd love to go to South America. It's one of my bucket list of things to do. Travel around South America a bit, so I'd love to do that as well. But that'll be another one. What about you?
Growing up, the Milan derby, Inter versus AC, San Siro, just because they both have to share the ground. They both loathe each other, and again, it's just that image of Rui Costa and I can't remember who it was for Inter Milan. So you stand next, Christian Vieira, I think it was, standing next to each other. And the flares are going off in the background of both respective teams. It's just that. It's just that sort of rivalry where you'd like this, as a neutral, just get in there and sort of see what it is. Another one, as you already mentioned, the main one for me would be the Old Firm, because we've seen it in the people who've gone, even neutral fans that have gone there and done vlogs this season, like the Cup semi-final, all that. The intensity, the rivalry, the hatred between the two fan bases is another level to any other rivalry in the UK, I think. Yeah, and that's saying something. They literally hate each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be really, really good. I'd like a match with a bit of needle in it. And I mean, Richard's put there, I'll travel to watch Arsenal in Champions League fun again. Obviously, that goes without saying, but that's not a foreign football match or foreign team that you'd love to travel and watch, Richard. But I totally get your point. I'd definitely be there as well. There's a question I want to ask you as well. No matter how ridiculous, what rule would you like to change in football to the benefit? It's a bit of a different slant on one that Melvin put in the WhatsApp group. But what I'm changing it slightly, Melvin, using host privileges, saying what rule would you change in football to make it more enjoyable to watch, no matter how ridiculous it is? I'll start at what you think.
Yeah,
I would like to change throw-ins to kick-ins, because I don't even know where throw-ins came from in football when you're not allowed to use your hands.
On the pitch itself, yeah.
It's a bit of a weird rule, really, to actually throw it in. I'm sick to death of foul throws being given all the time, and I would like to see kick-ins instead of throw-ins. So it's basically like a free kick. And I think it would mean that teams would like to keep it on the pitch a lot more rather than just lashing it into the stands, because it's a bit more of a dangerous thing to give away. Now, it's a bit ridiculous, but I just think, why do we have throw-ins in football? It's a weird one. It's something that we're all used to, and it doesn't. But I just think, who invented throw-ins in the first place? Why did they think it'd be a good idea to throw it in when you play football?
If you remember, 2008 when Stoke City came up, they made it. They may as well made it a fucking free kick. They've already done that, just lobbing it onto the goal line.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you may as well
Exactly.
just go down that route. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how that came about, but that'd be an interesting one for me. I mean, plain and simply, the offside rule. It's in terms of,
Mm.
I know they've got VAR to sort of do it, but make it literally one set. Not these different categories of the offside rule. Literally one category of the offside rule. And if it's literally like the shirt or like your fingertips
Your
or
leg
literal
hair.
or leg hair or something like that, it, or your literal
Yeah.
hair itself, depending on what sort of how long your hair is and all that, is ahead of the defender. You give the benefit to the attacker
Yeah.
instead of
Definitely.
this. If literally everything else is, if it's a fracture, as you say, of a fingernail or whatever is offside, then it'll be a lot less controversial because you can say, well, actually, the majority of their body is in line with the defender. But what was it? I think the main one for me was, or in terms of this season, was like the League Cup final. The amount of times Lukaku was getting done for offside, and we're looking back at it and saying, that's not offside. That wasn't
Yeah.
offside. This ain't offside. And the year before that, Patrick Bamford was caught offside for pointing, asking where he wanted the ball.
Mm.
They literally used his
That's
fingertip.
right. I remember that with Patrick Bamford. So
Yeah, Patrick
yeah,
Bamford for Leeds. I'm like,
that was the worst. And do you know what? I think that was the one that wound me up the most, even more than any Arsenal ones that we've been given against us. That really wound me up. That decision, the
mm,
Patrick Bamford one. I was thinking, what the hell? I mean, how he can't score with your arm, and he was just, I don't know, it's just, that was just so irritating. I felt really sorry for him, to be honest with you. Apparently, that's the interesting one. Richard's put in there that
yeah, it's time wasted.
throw-ins were started as an evolution of rugby, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I, I think it's a little bit strange though when you go back to those days and you think, hang on, why would you introduce it, even though it was what you say, an evolution of rugby? Why would you introduce it as a throw-in to football
Mm.
when the name is football?
You
Anyway,
can't use your hands anywhere else in the pitch as your goalkeeper in the
I
box.
know. Actually, that's another funny one. I heard it on the. I don't know if anyone else listening to the Quickly Kevin podcast, which is really funny. I love that podcast. And they were saying it'd be funny if, as a goalkeeper, when you go up for a corner or in the last minutes or whatever, that a goalkeeper of either team would be allowed to handle it in either box. So a goalkeeper could go up for a corner, catch it above everyone else's heads, and try and throw it into the goal. I
Mm.
think if you imagine that as part of the rules, it would just make it absolutely bonkers. But yeah, that's a bit ridiculous. But it
Mm.
would be quite funny.
I mean,
Um,
follow up what I said about the offside rule, Steve. But again, more simply than how I went about it, but saying the offside rule should be used in regard to the position of a player's
yeah,
foot or goals or his head, basically. In terms of goals,
yeah,
you can use your body with this to score a goal. So as
absolutely. I
I say,
totally
hands and
agree.
everything. If your hands are here, but all the rest of your body, goal scoring body, is in line with the defender, you play the advantage. So you give the advantage to the attacker.
Yeah,
And
no, it
again,
makes total sense.
stop time wasting as well, as we mentioned in the chat as well. That's another thing. There's got to
Yeah,
be a rule in place
absolutely.
where that's got to be not hit and miss being picked out, but literally every time someone's time wasting. We've been to games, even as Arsenal, or literally watched games as Arsenal fans the last 10 or so years. For example, a Stoke or a Blackburn have come to town within 2 minutes of going kicking off in the first half. They get a goal kick, and the goalkeeper's taking his time. Like, oh, I'll go and get the ball. I'll take my time. I'm going to slow things down. I don't want the ball in the net, sort of thing. There needs to be a punishment on the pitch, as well as if it's continuous. If you keep doing it as well against certain teams throughout the season, you're getting fines as well. There's got to be some way of nipping that in the bud, because it is, even from my perspective, annoying as hell.
I think.
You want to flow the game to keep going and get.
I mean, the worst ones are where they go down injured with 5 minutes to go, and they're just
What,
sitting there on the floor as
what
if
was it
they are,
the last
you know,
season now with who was it? Raul for Wolves.
yeah,
Raul Jimenez.
yeah.
That whole
Well,
that whole palaver.
I think that's one thing we could take from American sports where the time stops. So the team know that they're not going to get any kind of advantage. Like, there's 5 minutes to go. They spend 3 minutes on the floor, and we only get an extra minute added time. I think if the clock stopped like it does in American sports, then that wouldn't happen, would it? Or
they even do that in rugby, because I watch rugby and stuff, rugby union, Six Nations or whatever, and if a player goes down injured or there's a controversial incident where something needs to be checked, the ref says time off and the time stops.
Yeah,
there's no
exactly.
maybes.
I think that's should really happen as well. Another one from Melvin. Does our recruitment need to be on slightly inexperienced players, as the experienced ones seem to have a problem sometimes with our manager?
Ooh.
I don't know whether it's not always about the more experienced ones. I mean, Guendouzi's a good example.
He's proven it today as well.
Yeah, what a knob. So he wasn't particularly an experienced player who fell out with the manager, but I do get what you mean, because obviously the other ones, more or less have been. But I don't think it's to do with their levels of experience. I just think it's to do with their character, and I think the scouting seems to have improved with regards to that, with everyone we started bringing in last summer, and with Martinelli a bit before that as well. And I think the scouting just needs to concentrate not just on obviously the players' abilities, all-round abilities, but also their character, how they are as a person and a human being. I think that is it's just very, very. It's just as critical part of the scouting process as I say, watching them play and how they are on a pitch. I think how they are off the pitch, what their ambitions are, and do they really want to be an Arsenal player, rather than are they coming to Arsenal just to pick up the paycheck? Are they coming to Arsenal to use it as a step ladder to something else or whatever? I think we need to bring in the players who are desperate to play for Arsenal and who have got the right sort of professionalism about their character. I think that's more about it rather than how much experience they've got. Because you can get an 18-year-old who is exactly the same as a 33-year-old. Yeah. They're both equally just as good a fit into the club if you do your homework right. Not that we're saying we want to buy any 33-year-olds, but you get my drift.
Yeah. And also, you mentioned obviously Guendouzi and all that. You mentioned Guendouzi, but the majority have been our experienced players, or the experienced players that were inherited under when Arteta came in. They just had the wrong attitude from day dot. From obviously the previous manager and Wenger, and some of them go back to obviously Arsene Wenger, his last time as well. So it was a long time for certain experienced players. It was a long time coming. In terms of the Aubameyang one, that was out of the blue. It was out of the blue in the sense of there was no issue there before, but suddenly it's like he did at Dortmund and previous other clubs as well. When he gets bored, he wants out. He wants a new surroundings. He does these little things to throw toys at his pram to get what he wants. Basically, he did it to come to us in the first place. If everyone remembers rightly, when we brought Aubameyang in, he was doing a lot of what he did when he left us. So in that sense, it weren't a new thing. It's just we thought he was like, okay. The second it was like the second he signed that contract and did that interview at the Emirates and all that, and say I want to be here, the legend, this, that, and the other. It sort of went as a downhill. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Form at the window. Performances were literally non-existent 9 times out of 10. He turns up late for a North London derby at home for some bizarre reason, when it's literally behind closed doors. So he can't even put it down to the fans travelling there causing any sort of traffic. It was a Sunday as well, that game, or something like that. Either way, it was like you're late full stop for a game, but for a North London derby, and then to do what he did afterwards the game in terms of not go outside for the warm down, actually get his gear on and piss off and make a point of revving his car and all that.
Yeah.
And then what can come, and then fast forward with it 6-7 months later, the season just gone in November going into December, it was just like everything just came to a head, and Arteta thought, you know what, I've got to nip this in the bud. And this is the one thing I can't bash Arteta over the head with, unlike the likes of Piers Morgan and others. Is
Absolutely,
that
you can't be seen to be walked over
at the time, because if he hadn't nipped it in the bud, the way he did, and just punished him for a few weeks and put him back in, others would have then gone, well, hang on, we can do that as well then. If he's the captain.
Exactly, yeah.
So he had to nip that in the bud, and long term, that's going to have a benefit for us.
And you can't be seen to be a doormat, can you? Being walked over by players. You can't.
And also, if you look at the players who we are being linked with, was it Yuri Tielemans, Gabriel Jesus? These are now Premier League proven players that we're going for, experienced players in the Premier League. So we lacked. We obviously not just squad depth that we lacked, the lack of Premier League experience in the squad to get us over that line in the end is what come back and bit us on the arse as well. And someone like, again, I've been screaming for the last few months. I've been saying for the last few months, basically, Yuri Tielemans would be the ideal midfield signing we could make this summer. Imagine it, and I've said Partey, Tielemans, and Odegaard.
Just stop you just 1 second, because I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question now, so you can carry on. The Arsenal Misfits put, if we get Tielemans, is it the beginning of the end for Partey with his injury troubles? I could see us getting a Basuma type player next season.
I don't think it is. I think it's more beginning of the end for Granit.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. Because I don't think it's anything to do with Partey whatsoever. I think he's much more likely to be a replacement for Xhaka. I totally agree.
And also, if you look at when, especially this season just gone, when he has been available to play either prop for us or he come back from AFCON, the majority of his performances when he hasn't been injured this season have been of the ilk, or going towards the ilk of the sort of player we thought we'd signed back in a couple of years ago from Atletico.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
There has been improvement, and he comes out publicly and says, "I acknowledge my performances are nowhere near the level of my own standards, let alone anyone else's." That speaks volumes as well. I mean, I was just to say, a few weeks later, after that interview before the Everton game, we're going into the Man City game, and he puts arguably the best a man in the match performance in like he did, and obviously he came back from AFCON, got that stupid double booking, and he came back after literally on the day itself, came back and went, I want to play for the second leg. Apart from that moment, most of this season when he has played, he hasn't let us down. He has performed to the standard we somewhat expected of him. There's still room for improvement to get to an even better level.
Yeah, whereas, definitely.
In terms of Granit, the reason I say it's been the beginning of the end for Granit more so than Partey is because Granit's been here since Wenger in, 2017 bought him? 2016, 2017, wasn't it? 2016, after that's the one I told, sorry. The summer of 16, and we're now in 2022. He's been here long enough now, and he's, again, the age isn't on his side either. And I think he's just more of a long-term replacement to fill that void, and we're going to, if we do get Tielemans, we're going to see a lot less of Granit on the pitch, Premier League wise. It's going to be a gradual introduction of Tielemans and Partey.
Yeah, I think so. I'll take this next one from Russ. If we do buy Jesus, would you buy another striker in addition, or buy a player to replace Pepe? See, I would say if we buy Jesus, then a more traditional.
Well.
Sorry,
it sort of depends on what happens to Eddie as well, because that's still ongoing there.
Well, in a way, yeah. I mean, but I think we still need someone, even if he stays. I think that if we buy Jesus, then we would need a more central striker, because he's not an out-and-out number 9. Although he can play there, he's he played most of his best football wide right. He can play left as well, which is why I think he's a hand-in-glove type of signing. I desperately hope we get him, because I think he'd be perfect for our system. But if we get him, I'd rather get a bit more of a traditional, not traditional number 9 as in, an old-fashioned type of number 9, but, someone that has a bit more power and pace through the middle. Like a Tammy Abraham type. I think he played well yesterday. I think Tammy, even though England played pretty shocking, I watched him more than anyone else. And I do like him as a player. I think we missed a trick with him last summer, to be honest. So yeah, I would suggest that he'll be a more central player with a bit of height. If we get Jesus. Going on to the England game, I think, let me just quickly scroll back up. The Arsenal Misfit said, it's not really a question that he's put, but I'm going to turn it into one. Nice to see Ramsdale get a clean sheet yesterday, but the rest of the game was rubbish. It's not coming home at the World. It's put at the World Cup.
Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts on how England are going to do at the World Cup? I mean,
I'm concerned.
The last 3 games have been rubbish, really, but
that's putting it politely. I'm very concerned because not because of the players we've got, it's more the manager we've got. And Gary's been saying since. I mean, Gary, as we know, because we've been sort of taking jibs and whatever. But also the World Cup and coming up, England v USA. He's come back here, and even Colin in the Euros, we didn't build up for that. They're both saying the same thing. Southgate's the issue. He's the one that's going to hold debate. If Southgate does a Southgate, you're buggered. And we've seen for the last 3 games, last night, and that was a weaker Italy than what we played in the final a year ago, nearly.
No, much weaker.
And look at, and you can't really put it down to the limitations of fans and all that last night, because we played in Munich, full stadium. We played in Hungary, which was meant to be behind closed doors, but had over 30. Well, in a 90,000 capacity stadium, the entire lower tier was pretty much full. Read into that what you will. Yet last night was the away stand was all, that was it. But look at again, as I say, it's not the players that are concerning me. It's him, because yet again, we're saying it again. We've got an amazing array of talent, not just in the attack, but midfield, defence. When you pick the right players, that is. Even we've got competition for goalkeeper now in terms of Ramsdale and Pickford going head for that. But it's like, yet again, the England manager forte is, I've been here a while now, I have my favourites, they haven't let me down, so I'm going to keep on picking them, even if they're playing poorly for their respective clubs, i.e. the fucking fridge that is Harry Maguire, for example, just one of the names that many should have been in the squad. Or you're picking an array of, you'll pick a squad, and was it last night, Trippier, who's a right back, or right wing back as well, was playing left wing back instead of an actual natural. He's not playing.
He picked 5 right backs.
No,
he picked 5 right backs in the squad. Yeah. Not one left back. There isn't a left back in the squad.
This is what I'm saying. And when he does that, he then puts what we accuse of Arteta sometimes. Emery, Wenger, as from an Arsenal perspective, when they literally had, we ain't got this playing, so just round pegs and square holes. Just, that'll do, and just hope it all falls into place. He picks players that are out of form, players that are in form, like Tomori, who's been is AC Milan defender, just won the title in Serie A. We've been saying for months as neutrals here, and amongst the football fan base, he needs to be in the squad. He needs to be starting at least. Give him a chance. But he plays last night, and that was it. And if anything, again, it showed last night when he did play how much of a better defender he is compared to Teo Mings or Harry Maguire or Conor Cody. It is bizarre, because we have these, again, I can say, a fantastic array of talent. We could not quite easy, but we could rightly so win this World Cup coming up with the right manager, with this team. But yet again, the FA had, for some bizarre reason, after the debacle of what happened with Sam Allardyce after his one game, gave Southgate the job after bloody handful of games because it was just easier than going out and looking for someone who's more experienced. I've been saying this, the second we gave him the full-time, well, not we, but the FA gave him the full-time job, for me, there's a reason why Southgate was never hired after he got sacked from Middlesbrough back in 2008. And we're now
100%.
and he got the job, in 2017? 2018, give or take?
I've said the same. Since the day he got the job, I was against it, and I've never changed my mind. But that Europe, I mean, fair play getting to the final, but that's more down to the players than him.
Yeah.
The great squad he's got available to him. I'm sorry, but his tactical nous, his ability to set the team up and get them to play well is just so poor. You know, he's still in the job, and the FA love him, and loads of people around. Because I like him as a person, and the way he is in front of the camera, fantastic. What he says, brilliant. But as a coach, shit. I'm sorry, but the way after we went ahead in the final of the Euros, for this at least the last half an hour of the first half, we were getting battered by them.
Get them back into the game, yeah.
And he never did a thing about it at half time, didn't change anything during the first half, made no changes at half time, and lo and behold, they equalise and go on and win the game on penalties. And his ability to change things is just absolutely shocking. And he's just lucky that we're doing so well because of the crop of players he's got at his disposal at the moment.
Well, I mean, Russ mentions in the chat semi-final and the final says otherwise, but it's more so down to the players. And if you look at that semi-final and final respectively, both big games respectively at the time for our country, the biggest in our history at that time, both times respectively.
He let us down.
So both games, we take an early lead, and what do? We don't go out for the kill. We then sit back. Hands in tactics, sits back, takes the formation, and invites the pressure on.
I hate that. I hate that. When you take the lead, it's the...
So the worst thing he did as well was at Euros final was in the last couple of minutes bringing on Rashford and Jadon Sancho, not giving them enough time to be on the pitch and warm their legs up properly.
I know. Even though they were just taking a penalty, they need to have that adrenaline. They need to be in the game. They need to be warmed up. They need to be mentally right. Bringing them on 2 minutes to go is just a wrong thing to do when you're just about to take the most important penalties in England's history since 1966.
Yeah. At Wembley.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I totally agree. The fact that we've got to a final and semi-final is the fact that he's got an amazing squad available to him of great talent. And when the push comes to shove, he gets out-coached every single time. And the best thing to do when you're dominating a game and you take a lead is to try and go and get another one rather than sit back. That is one of the most annoying things in football for me, is when a manager does that. And Arsenal are guilty of that. We know that we are on occasions, trying to hold on to a lead. And it's just ridiculous. When you scored a goal, go and get another one. I don't know, it's not always possible because, like one of my favourite sayings is, other teams have tactics too, and they'll try and change things when they go behind. But that's the best thing to do. When you've got a team rattled, try and press forward your advantage rather than just sitting back on it. It very, very rarely works unless you've got the team set up to do it, and the proper, like a Jose Mourinho of old team who are really capable of doing that. Anyway. Let's move on. I don't think we'll win anything with him at the helm. By the way, that's the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, there's a few screenshots I sent over to you. The questions that have been asked by three from Stan. You can choose if you want to ask them or not.
You sent them to me on WhatsApp.
Yeah,
nice one.
On our normal WhatsApp, cool. Not good. But
we've got a few more. We've got about another 10 minutes or so. I needed to wrap it up because I've got an engagement this evening, so we'll have to sort of try and squeeze these in as quickly as we can. But yes, first question from Stan. What should happen to the monarchy after the Queen dies?
You can take that one.
I, I mean, to be fair, I'm actually quite a proud British guy. I'm not going to say that I agree with the cost of the monarchy and everything per year and all that sort of stuff, but I do like the fact. I mean, I was quite lucky enough to have travelled around the world and backpacked around the world for a couple of years and lived abroad when I was younger as well. And all the time, when you see other countries, it does make you proud to have to be British and have the British history the way that we have over and above a lot of other countries. And I like the fact that we have got a queen and a monarchy. So I say, although I'm not keen on the cost, I know people will always go. And once again, it's only my. I like the more royal family in a way.
I think it's more so what comes afterwards when she does pop.
Yeah, I don't think it should go to Charles. I think it should go straight to someone younger. William. That's what I think. But I do like the fact that we have got a monarchy, and I wouldn't like it to be abolished after how many hundreds and hundreds of years that we've had them in the past. I think we should still continue. Maybe they should start having adverts for the monarchy to try and support their support the cost. They should advertise. They should on the Queen's blazer that she wears. She should have adverts for BP or something.
Visit the Commonwealth.
Yeah. A quick other one from Stan saying boxer shorts or Y fronts. I mean, easy one for me, that one. Boxers. Yeah, God, the Y front's so uncomfortable. It's unbelievable. And who is the one signing you want to see us get this summer? I'll leave that one to you for now. Just the one.
Tielemans. Like I said earlier, I've been banging on about it.
What, over and above a striker? We haven't got any strikers at the moment.
That's the thing. But I was just saying because he knows the league, he knows he won't take that any time set in. Again, it's just strikers. It's like everyone we're linked with, either Juventus nick them or we know got Liverpool nicking them. So I'm just like, I don't want to mention any strikers because I go after them.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
But I mean, as it stands right this minute, if you can only have one signing to see us get in, it's got to be a striker for me.
If you're going to have one, then it'd be a striker. But
Gabriel Jesus at the moment, but I'd love. The good thing is, as I mentioned in a couple of other previous podcasts, I like all the links we've got at the moment. I like Gabriel Jesus. I really like Tielemans as well, and I really like Zinchenko. So they would be good for me. Russ Morgan says,
Russ in the chat.
Yeah, Rafinha. I mean, I've got nothing against him. I think he's a good player. And again, he'll help us build our Brazilian contingent to be the Brazil of the Premier League. Bringing him, Richarlison and Gabriel Jesus.
Gabriel in the back.
I think it'd be great.
I was saying a few days ago, literally,
good player.
The late 90s, early 2000s, we were known for the basically Arsenal was known as being the French national team because all we had was basically core French players. We're going to Brazil route now.
Yeah, I'll be quite happy with that, mate. As I say, playing Samba football would be great. Yeah, good point with Steve. And the amount of money the royal family bring in for tourism far outweighs the £1 every citizen pays to keep it going. Very true. But I still think they should be emblazoned with BT and Castrol GTX on the front. Would you guys want Gigi Wijnaldum? Not for me anymore. Past his best. Great player in the previous years for Liverpool. But Liverpool let him go for a reason, I think, because he's got to that peak. It's like a similar thing we've got with Xhaka now. I think we've seen Xhaka's peak years, the last 2 years, where he's been are pretty decent. And although I'm sure he could still do a job, I would worry that he is just over his best and on his way down. He'll command a big salary, and you are statistically, I'm sure, more likely to not be able to last the 90 and get more injuries when you get to the age that he is.
Yeah, I mean, the reason back in January was we was okay with the link with Wijnaldum back in January because it made sense at the time because he was Premier League proven. We needed that experience, we needed that midfielder, full stop, to sort of help Sambi along the way. It just made sense at the time, but as you say, now F1's back with who we've been linked with. Just doesn't make sense because he's another one in his 30s now. So there's no if things go wrong, there's no resale value.
Exactly.
Make the mistakes of what we did with the David Luiz's of this world, and also Willian actually, because of again he was a player at the end of his career, didn't work out, and he had to buy out his own contract to leave.
I mean, if things existed in this day and age of 1 year contract that players were happy to take, which obviously no one would, especially at his age, then I'll probably have him for a year, no problem. But you can't. It just doesn't happen that way anymore, does it? You'd have to sort of sign him up for probably 3 years or so, and you're just stuck with him.
So I think there's a player near the end of his time. Lacazette, that was it. Lacazette. He's re-signed for Lyon for 3 years, and he's in his 30s. So as I say, it's not. No one nowadays is going to take, even a player on that side of their career is going to take a 1 year deal.
No, especially.
There's another question from Ender, by the way, that I did send over to you, but he's asking, are all-time 11, Arsenal 11, post the Invincible era? So we can pick, basically, because I did ask the question back, we can only pick players that didn't win the title in 03-04. So even they stayed on 05-06 and all that, we can't pick them because they won the title. So it's got to be a player that hasn't won a title.
Well, let's roll that one over to your show on your channel this time next week, because that's going to take a lot longer than the time we've got left.
Yeah.
But that's a great question, and we'll definitely do that. I'll make a note of that. If you can do that, make a note as well, Ryan.
And send it over as well. So
that'll be the first question next week, Ender, if you tune in next week. Final question for me before that I'm going to ask to you before we call it a day today. What's your favourite sandwich?
Oh God! We got a non-football question. Yay!
Exactly. Yeah.
Depends on the mood, really. But well, this time of year, with the heat and all that, ham salad, literal ham, cucumber, cherry tomatoes.
Good old classic.
Salad, yeah.
Do you have anything on it as a kind of sauce, like a mayo or
salad cream? Sorry.
Yeah, salad cream, my favourite as well.
Yeah.
Salad cream is my favourite.
It's not too heavy. It's refreshing as well because there's the cucumber and the salad and all that.
Yeah, a bit controversial, but I love salad cream on my chips as well.
Never tried it myself. No.
Nice, excellent. Just give it a try. Put it on the side of your plate just in case you don't like it, but give them a dip. It's great. My favourite sandwich, just for the record, I have to say, is probably a classic BLT. As long as the bacon is quite nice and crispy. Not too crispy, but a bit on the well done side. I love it. Right, I'm going to call it a day there, but that's final question. Gives you a clue as to some other types of questions you can put in for next week's show. It doesn't have to be football related. It could be about anything. Could be about anything we do within reason, in our spare times and all that sort of stuff. Stupid questions, all that sort of stuff. Anything's welcome. Just send them in during the week to @FromDialSquare or @MrArsenal89 for those listening in audio format. So hope you enjoyed that first show. And get your questions in for next week. Give us a like, please, before you go, and tell other people about the channels, both our channels, so we can keep them growing. And once again, thank you, Ryan. We'll see you on your channel this time next week.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone in the chat. It's been great. Like I said before, there would be no show without you guys. This is an audience participation show, as you probably realise. So take care once again and see you all next week.